All right, Panther Lair, let's talk about how the Pittsburgh Panthers executed against ball screen Hedges in their most recent loss against the Virginia Cavaliers. Now, I want to cover this with three different angles. The first being what they did well, the second being what they didn't do well, and the third being kind of near missed opportunities. So let's start with something they did really well, and that is when Noah Collier was involved setting screens. Now, I've talked about how good I think Collier's been in the past. I've also talked about how effective I think drag screens are in one of my past breakdowns. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but what I do want to focus on is that the best way to attack a ball screen hedge is either a hard roll or a slip. The reason being is that it's going to force the screener's defender to take a much more elongated path to recovery, and it's also going to force the help defenders to help longer. Okay, so I put that out on Twitter, but we're going to break that down even further here. So you'll see as this clip plays, and Collier does such a good job of kind of just changing the angle of his screen a lot too. Really good. Changes the angle right here. Now, because of the urgency here and just the way that this is happening, kind of coming out of a semi-transition opportunity, it really doesn't allow the hedge here. But what this is going to do is allow Burton to attack downhill. That's what Virginia doesn't want. So Burton's able to do that as Kafar just continuously sinks. He squeezes this pass in here in the interior. Now, we know Collier isn't quite ready to help in this way, but a really good job of rolling to the basket. Jeffress securing the offensive rebound. That's kind of one of the things he's doing well. A few things he's doing well on offense right now is securing those extra possessions. So now you're going to see another example here where Collier is going to set a screen, and he's going to exit. Here is the hedge, but what happens is because he's going to exit with such urgency and roll hard, it's going to force these defenders into help longer, and that's going to suck Kafaro back in. It's going to, in that process here, I think this is Franklin doesn't have the best angle to now handle Burton, so he's able to kind of turn the corner and get a nice layup. Now here again, you're seeing another example with Collier changing the angle, so the hard hedge, but he immediately changes the angle again. Not able to execute the hedge here because of just the speed and the urgency in which that is executed. He's going to roll. Now look, if this help has to come all the way in to help here, all the way in to help here, and has to hold longer. Like if, you know, Burton, who can throw skip passes here, it's a good job Kia Clark's kind of splitting, but you could just see the difference in how the defense has to react with a hard roll. Swings, and now because Kia Clark was splitting, he has to kind of close out harder here on Ezi Okuda. That opens up an angle for him to kind of win the point of attack, as opposed to Kia Clark just kind of being stationary and being able to kind of set his feet a little bit and keep active against Ezi Okuda. And a nice little dump off, and this is one way that Collier can help. So you can see those are two good examples of what the hard roll can do against ball screen hedges. It just takes the screener's defender a lot longer to refine their man, and it puts the help defenders in a position to have to help a lot longer. Now let's take a look at a couple possessions where this didn't happen. Here's with Hughley. Look, Hughley's the best player on Pitt's team. It's not that close. He's awesome. He's an interior force, but his screen setting has been spotty, and a lot of times he kind of just flares off or rolls into space where he wants the ball. Now, if you watch this game, you know that he did make a play on the perimeter, which he was able to kind of take, I believe it was Kafaro, off the dribble, and was able to kind of get an and one towards the end of the first half. That also may have been Shedrick, but this is not common for him. And even though, again, he hit a couple outside shots, that's not common for him. It's important for him to set these screens. So he just kind of rolls into this small space. But look, I mean, the hedge is effective, right? Femi's not able to come over. But this help defender, all he does is kind of sink and come back. This doesn't influence anybody here. I mean, the defense just gets set right back to where it needs to be almost immediately, right? The recovery is just this short as opposed to the recovery needing to be down here where maybe Femi has a chance to beat his guy. Ends up being a turnover. Take a look at another one. So Hughley is going to set another high screen. He kind of doesn't really initiate a lot of contact, immediately just kind of flares off and into space. But look, again, the recovery is not going to be that much of a challenge here. Now, what's going to happen here is kind of a switch. So they're going to have to end up switching this. There's a brief moment where if Hughley just catches and fires this, but honestly, Dan Oladapo, who had not really played a lot, I'm not really sure how much chemistry is going on between Hughley and Oladapo at the moment, so that might just be a little mistime. But this is kind of a short roll of sorts. This forces a switch. There's an opening here that Pitt doesn't take advantage of, and also Kafar's 7 foot tall, so throwing this through here just may not happen. But you're going to see this flows into another ball screen. Hughley's just kind of Gonna flare out here a little bit. Does the better job with contact, but when you're only right here and the hedge happens, there's just literally no recovery time. So this doesn't do anything to influence the other defenders. Maybe this defender here steps in for a second, and then he just immediately retreats back. I mean, there's just almost no influence. You get nothing out of that ball screen because you don't force any type of rotation, any type of help, any type of collapsing, nothing. And if this clip were to play all the way out, this is Jefferson's one turnover. He just kind of dribbles into Hughley's guy. I believe this is Shedrick over here. So now it's going to some near misses. So this is an opportunity here where Hughley does roll a little harder. Right? So he's going to roll a little harder, and Burton's going to come over here and try to thread one. I think if Hughley gets a little bit deeper, the pass probably can meet him underneath, and we have seen Hughley make shots literally under the basket, just great balance and feel. But I think stopping right around here just doesn't give it as much of a chance. This is a little bit miscommunication. I don't really want to put this on any one person, but I think if Hughley does roll harder, that there is a chance that this gets through. And then same thing here with Femi Udakali. So you'll see they're going to try to run this here. There's going to be a hedge, and Femi's going to try to thread this through. But the length of Shedrick, I think, really bothers this play a little bit. And Femi probably could have just stretched this out a little bit to create a different angle, but it's a good thought to kind of weave this through. I'm not sure Hughley's in a position to catch this either, and it just doesn't really work out. So a couple near misses there, but overall, Pitt really struggled with ball screen hedges, particularly in the first half, and it caught up to them. In the second half, they ran a lot of Spain pick and roll. They went back to some of the things that worked in terms of, rolling harder. You saw that with Collier, and I think they ended up getting some opportunities. It just was a little bit too little, too late. So we'll see if this is an adjustment they make going forward, because I think a lot more teams are going to try to hedge ball screens going forward just watching this tape.